Okay, back to lesson 1-6. I just hit the record button. I forgot to hit it at the beginning. So, complementary angles add to 90. Supplementary angles add to 180. So if you're asked to find the complement of 27, all you have to do is do 90 minus 27 to get whatever adds to 27 to make 90. Same for if you're asked to find the supplement. And some of you that looked at Khan Academy already know that these types of questions are on Khan Academy, and they're easy to get right as long as you know what they're looking for. So 180 minus 115 would be 65 degrees. Then 3 and 4. So it says angle A and B are complementary. That means they add to 90 degrees. Find the measure of each angle given, and it gives us expressions. So instead of giving us numbers, it gives us expressions. And what I have sewed up here is I added those two expressions and set them to 90 because then I can solve for x. So since these two angles I know add to 90 because they're complementary, I just added them and put them equal to 90, and then we'll solve for x. Did anybody solve for x already? What did you get?
8.
You're awesome. That's correct. If you got 8 for x, that is correct. I'll go through and show the steps if you didn't get 8. So 5x plus 7x would be 12x. 4 plus negative 10 would be negative 6 equals 90. Then from here you would add 6 to both sides, so I get 12x equals 96. Divide both sides by 12. And x equals 8. So x equals 8, but it actually asks for the measure of the angle. So then we have to take 8 and plug it in. Okay, so once we have x equals 8, then we need to plug it into these expressions. So 5 times 8 plus 4. That would be 40 plus 4, which is 44. So angle A, measure of angle A equals 44. And then for angle B, again, plugging it in. Sorry if you're running out of space. 56 minus 10 is 46. So measure angle B equals 46. So this is actually the answer they're looking for. Measure of angle A is 44, measure of angle B is 46, and then just kind of eyeball it, make sure that those two numbers add to 90, and if they do, then you did all of your calculations correct. For the next one, it's the same idea, and we're not going to work through all the steps because I know you're probably running out of room on your paper, but we set it up equal to 180. And when you solve this for x, you would get x equals 9. And then from there, you would plug that into these two expressions, and you would get the measure of angle A equals 101, measure angle B equals 79, and that would be your answer there. Okay. Next concept is adjacent angles. Adjacent. The word adjacent means like right next to. If something's adjacent, like let's say the hand sanitizer is adjacent to my coffee. That's what adjacent means. It means the same thing with angles. So adjacent angles are right next to each other. They often look like this. So it would be angle 1 is adjacent to angle 2. So these angles are adjacent because they share a common side. And they share the common vertex. So in order to be adjacent, they have to share the common vertex and a common side. Now we're going to look at these examples and determine whether they are adjacent or not. So the first example, are they adjacent? Yes. That is exactly like our example here. The next example, no, they don't share the common vertex. So this one would be no, they're not adjacent. The next one, No, those are not adjacent. This one, even though it's turned, see how we have that line right here, and then we have this right here? 7 and 8 do share a common vertex, and they share a common side. So this one, they would be adjacent, yes. And same with this one. They share the common vertex and a common side, so yes, they are adjacent. And just what happens with adjacent angles is if you knew this whole thing was, let's say, 106 degrees. I'm just making up a number. With adjacent angles, you know that these two add to 106. So if one was like, I don't know, 50, the other one would have to be 56 because they add to 106. So that is the importance of adjacent angles. Okay, next. Next page, actually, you're going to turn your folder to go here. Okay, so now we're looking at a new term called linear pair. And a linear pair, it might be kind of like in the crease. Here, I'm just going to label it here. This is a linear pair. The term linear, you've heard in algebra, linear means like a straight line. So a linear pair of angles are two that come together to form a straight line. So they are adjacent and they form that straight line. That straight line, does anybody know the degree measure of the straight line? Yes. Yeah, 180 degrees. So when you have a linear pair, they add to 180 degrees. So let's say this is 60 degrees. This would have to be 120 degrees. So whether they tell you it's 180 degrees or not, if you see that straight line, you know it's going to be 180 degrees. And so just some things about linear pairs. They must be adjacent. They must be opposite rays. I'm going to take out number 3 because I don't think it's necessary. And they must be supplementary. So they must be adjacent, which they are. This at the bottom has to be opposite rays or form a straight line, and therefore they must be supplementary. Okay, so examples of a linear pair would be a straight line with a ray shooting out of it. So 1 and 2 would be a linear pair. Another example is when you have intersecting lines. So let's say you have intersecting lines. If you kind of like pretend this part doesn't exist, you have a linear pair right here. So right here you have two angles that are going to add to 180. So angle 1 and 2 would be a linear pair. So if you kind of like put your hand there and just look at it like that, you have a linear pair. A non-example would be something like this, where it doesn't form a straight line, or like some kind of like 3, I don't know, something like that would not be a linear pair. You don't have that straight line there. Next concept is vertical angles. Vertical angles are formed by two intersecting lines. Does anybody remember vertical angles from 8th grade? No? Okay. Ooh. And they're angles opposite each other. Let's put like paper under here so I write flat. And biggest point here is vertical angles are congruent. And you can kind of see that too. The angle A looks the same as angle A. So vertical angles are congruent, so angle A and angle A would be vertical angles. They would have the same measure. And angle B and angle B would have the same measure as well. So an example of this, when you have two intersecting lines, this angle would be the same measure as this one. And this angle would be the same as this one. So if we do two lines and two lines, that means that they match in measure. So a non-example, maybe something like this. There's no opposite angles there. Okay, and some practice right here. Determine if the angles are vertical angles, a linear pair, or neither. So vertical angles would be those opposite angles. A linear pair would be a pair of angles that form a straight line like this, and neither would be neither of them. So here it says angle 1 and angle 3. You just have to look over here and look at those two angles. I'm going to use a pencil so I can kind of erase as I go. 1 and 3 would be right here and right here. I don't see vertical angles, and there's not a linear pair there at all, so that would be neither. Then erasing my marks. Okay, 2 and 3, they're adjacent, but they don't form a linear pair, so this would be neither, but I do want to point out that they are adjacent. So 2 and 3 right here, they're just adjacent. Four and 5. Okay, here we go. Here's one of them. 4 and 5 form a straight line. They are a linear pair. So that means their measures add up to 180. So if we were given the measure of one of those angles, we could figure out the other. Next pair is 5 and 8. So angle 5 here and angle 8. Those are vertical. They're opposite each other. They would have the same measure. So vertical angles. Right there. The next one, 4 and 9, see if you can figure it out. Okay, I'm going to have you sit in seat number 2, so you put your phone up there and box number 2. So you'll sit there too. I don't have a copy. We're doing the last lesson in the chapter. Are you coming from another geometry class?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't have a copy of the guided notes for you. I'll have to make a copy and give it to you tomorrow. So just sit and watch and listen. Do you know if you're in our School G course yet? Maybe not. Okay, we'll check after. Okay. Well, just watch and listen. See if you remember anything from. What grade are you in? Ninth. Okay. So you skipped 8th grade math then, so you might not remember some.
I did.
You did? But you did algebra then?
Yeah.
Got it. So 8th grade pre-algebra has some of these. So I don't know. You might remember some of this from 7th grade. Okay. Angle 4 and 9. What did you get? Anybody? I know some of y'all got it. Okay, 4 and 9. Are they vertical or a linear pair? Yes.
Vertical.
Yes. Vertical angles. So if you look on here, 4 and 9 are opposite each other, so they are vertical angles, and they would have the same measure. So if you're given that this was 120 degrees, you would automatically know that this is 120 degrees. Then 5 and 6, let's see. 5 and 6, nothing. They're not adjacent, they aren't a linear pair. so neither. And then 1 and 4, they're neither vertical angles or a linear pair, so that's neither. Those two do have a relationship, and we'll talk about that. I believe it comes up in chapter 3. Those are consecutive interior angles, but they would actually add up to 180. But we'll get to that later. Okay, next page. Okay, last set of vocabulary. Perpendicular lines, which you probably remember from starting in elementary school. Perpendicular lines are two intersecting lines that form these 90-degree angles. So here they show perpendicular lines here, and here as well. As long as you see that little square there, that means that all the angles are 90 degrees. They intersect at a 90-degree right angle, so intersect. I should use a pen so you can see better. At 90 degrees. And they form 4 right angles. And the notation for this, or the symbol for perpendicular, is this. So you might see something like line Q. Whoa. Let's say line AB is perpendicular to CD, and this would be the symbol that means perpendicular. That's blurry. Okay, this chart kind of brings everything together. Words that mean equal, words that mean add to 90, and words that mean add to 180. So words that mean equal are congruent. If two things are congruent, that means they are the same measure. Also, in this chapter, we've come across the word bisect. When you bisect an angle or bisect a segment, then it's breaking it up into 2 equal parts. So either bisect or bisector means it's breaking it up into 2 equal parts. And then the other thing that can mean equal is midpoint. If you're told that something is the midpoint, then the sides are equal. So if you're told you have a line segment and you have a midpoint, that would mean that this is equal to this. Okay, words that mean add to 90 degrees would be complement or complementary. Also, a right angle would be 90 degrees. So if two angles come together to form a right angle, they would add to 90 degrees. Also, if you have perpendicular lines, you know that you're going to be working with 90-degree angles. Then add to 180 degrees. Supplementary means that they add to 180 degrees. A linear pair, that's when you have that straight line and 2 adjacent angles. Those add to 180 degrees. Also, opposite rays would be another way of saying like a straight line. A ray that goes this way and then a ray that goes in the opposite direction would create that straight line that would be 180 degrees. Okay, now we're going to look at this chart. We've looked at all the relationships, but you know they're going to bring in some algebra here. Right here we have vertical angles, and one is an expression. So filling in this chart, the type of angles we have is vertical. And that means that those two angles are equal. So the equation we'd use to figure out what y is would be 11y minus 36 equals 63. Okay, and then to solve this equation, add 36 to both sides. 11y equals 99. And then y equals 9. Next example, we also have vertical angles. This angle would be equal to this one. So type vertical angles. That means that those two angles are equal. So we can set those expressions equal to each other. 7x plus 30 equals 11x minus 24. And solving this, put the x's on one side. Also going to put the constants on the other side. I get negative 4x equals negative 54. And then from here, divide both sides by 4, and you'd get x equals 13.5. Okay. The next set of angles, they are not vertical, they are adjacent, and they are adjacent and form a straight line. So that means these two add to 180. The name for this would be a linear pair. They add to 180 degrees. And the work for this isn't going to fit in the box, so I'm just going to bring it down here. So what we have to do is take these two expressions and put them equal to 180. So I'm going to start with the first one, 25x plus 8 plus 9x plus 2, and then equal to 180. To solve this, I'm going to first need to combine like terms. I see that I have 25x and 9x. I can combine those to make 34x. And then the constants 8 and 2, 8 plus 2 is 10. Put it equal to 180. And then from here, subtract 10 from both sides. And then divide by 34. And x equals 5. And last but not least, number 4, it shows these two angles coming together to make a 90-degree angle. So these are complementary, meaning they add to 90. And then in here we do x plus 30 equals 90. So 2x plus 30 equals 90. And just solve from here. That's it. Okay, that is the end of literally this chapter, y'all. Good job. I'm going to give you the rest of class to work on your homework. The homework questions are just like this. The only thing that can be confusing is they'll have you look at like a larger picture kind of like this, and you have to identify which angles they're talking about. That can be the hardest part. So if you need help with that at all, just let me know. But the goal would definitely be to get the homework done in class. Then just to give you an idea of what to expect for the week. Tomorrow we're going to do extra practice on complementary angles, supplementary angles, linear pairs, all of that, more in a worksheet. And then on Thursday we have a practice test, and then Friday is the actual Chapter 1 test. So that's what you have to look forward to. I am going to have you use your phones, but I want to see everyone on homework working on it, and ask questions, please, if you need it. If you finish the homework early, then you should be jumping on Khan Academy and getting that started for the week. Most of the Khan Academy assignments are on this concept, and to be honest, I think the way Khan Academy presents this is a little bit clearer and easier to understand than even the textbook problems, which are in Schoology. So definitely make sure you're practicing Khan Academy, and go ahead and get your phones and start your homework.